أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما كثيرا إلى يوم الدين وبعد. Inshallah, we'll continue the signs of the Day of Judgment, the last hour. And last time we spoke about few things, so let's recall inshallah very quickly. And today it's a very important topic today, and it's a lot of names and dates. So forgive me inshallah for the history that we're going to be discussing, but it's important to know, to learn from history so we could benefit inshallah in our time. Okay, this is the point, is to benefit in our time and how to use history for present. So the first sign we spoke about was Bismillah. Huh? The sending of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or the revelation. Yes. Number two, the death of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number three, the splitting of the moon. Yeah, that took place at the time of Rasulullah. Number four, the disappearance of the noble companions of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number five, the conquest of Jerusalem. Okay? طيب, let's start inshallah. Jazakumullah. I see people writing, alhamdulillah, that's improvement. That's improvement. That's because there's a lot to discuss, so it's good. Bayt al-Maqdis, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam connected the conquest of Jerusalem, Bayt al-Maqdis, with another incident that we're gonna jump to it, then we're gonna come back to history. So today and the next time maybe, it's only gonna be history inshallah, which is, I think it's entertaining more than just no. So Bayt al-Maqdis, we already said the conquest, the first conquest of Bayt al-Maqdis, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith narrated by Auf ibn Malik radiyallahu anh, قال أعدد ستا بين يدي الساعة. Count 6 things before the last hour. بعث موتي. Okay, and then he counted his death sallallahu alaihi wasallam. وفتح بيت المقدس, the conquest of Jerusalem. وموتان يأخذ فيكم كقعاص الغنم. And he said the widespread death that will take you, meaning the Sahaba or the people who live at that time, like a plague. Okay, that will take most of the people, like the plague that comes to the sheeps, and we'll discuss that in seconds. Umar radiallahu anhu arda conquested Bayt al-Maqdis after 4 months of surrounding Bayt al-Maqdis with the army of Abu Ubaidah ibn al-Jarrah radiallahu anhu arda. Abu Ubaidah, after they conquested Bayt al-Maqdis, and Umar entered year 18, year 16, year 18 came. Here is what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam talked about before the second conquest of Bayt al-Maqdis. We have Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa, which is built by Sulaiman alayhi salam. We have Masjid Umar radiallahu anhu arda. And then we have Qubbat al-Sakhra, which is the dome of the rock that is built by Marwan ibn Abdul Malik and his son. Marwan ibn Abdul Malik started it, Qubbat al-Sakhra, year 691 Hijri, okay, Miladi, I mean. And then his son, Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, continued on the building of the Dome of the Rock that we see today, that is well known in Jerusalem. Now, when Umar radiallahu anhu went back, there is another conquest, okay? Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa was taken after the Crusaders invaded the Muslim countries, okay? And it was taken up to the time of Salahuddin, rahimahullah ta'ala wa radiyan. And that took over 400 years. Okay, so now hold this thought for a second. We're going to talk about that conquest. In between, Rasulullah ﷺ said, ثُمَّ يَكُونُ, and then it will come a plague. A plague here is a disease that will spread, that Rasulullah ﷺ explained exactly where it will be and what will happen. And that's why I want to speak about that sign before I go back to the conquest. We already said Jerusalem was conquested how many times? It's gonna be 3 times. 2 already happened, and 1 we're waiting for inshallah. Okay? Is that clear? Now, before we speak about the second one, what happened in between is important because Rasulullah put it in that order. He said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and this is year 18, in Damascus, a plague came in a city called Amwas. Amwas is a small city very close to Al-Aqsa and Al-Quds. And that place is at a time of Umar radiallahu anhu, year 18. That plague in itself, when it came, it took the souls of 25,000 Muslims. How much? 25,000. Okay? And remember, this is a large number at that time. Aslan, in the history of Islam, if you count every person who died in the battle from the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam till that plague, they will not even be close to that. Yani the biggest battle that took place is Ma'arakat al-Yarmouk. Okay? Ma'arakat al-Yarmouk was between Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas and Herakl, the Roman Empire. How many people got killed? 3,000 maximum. So this place, and now the army of the Muslims at that time were 40,000. So if 25,000 people died, that's half of the Muslims. That's a large, that's a disaster. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam spoke about that disaster, and he actually spoke of the place. He said, "Satuhajiruna ila Sham. You will migrate to Damascus. فَيَأْتِي عَلَيْكُمْ مَرَض, and then a plague will come to you. It will attack a person. Okay? It will attack في مراق الرجل, in the in-joint region. That's what the doctor call it, between the belly and your thighs. And then he said, because there's a lot of limbs there and so on and so forth, he said it will start with an ulcer, قرح. That ulcer will spread in the body of that individual. It will turn his body into heat and fever, and the person will die. So he said where it will be, Damascus, fi Sham. So Rasulullah spoke of it. So this happened by revelation, by wahi. At the time of Umar radiallahu anhu arda. So Umar radiallahu anhu arda, what did he do? He went out from Medina to Damascus to check on the people. And he got there. Before he entered Damascus, there was a debate, kind of. First, the migrants. Umar radiallahu anhu, he asked them, he said, what should we do? Should we go in to Damascus? And they said to Umar radiallahu anhu that this widespread death will take everybody, and this is a problem. And if a plague like this takes place, and if you think you entering Syria to die too with them, it is the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Umar radiallahu anhu said, okay, let me talk to the Ansar. He spoke to the Ansar. They had a different opinion. They said, well, we don't think you should go in. Okay? Why? Because the people who are in are sick. And if you go in, the disease is what? Contagious. So therefore, you will get it. We already lost 25,000 people. If we lose Umar and his people, then khalas, there's no Muslims. Islam is over. So they told Umar, we think you should stay behind. So they did not know what to do till Abdul Rahman ibn Auf radiallahu anhu came. Abdul Rahman ibn Auf was outside of Damascus. When he came, he said, what are you talking about? They said, we're debating, should we go in, should we help, what should we do? He said, سمعت رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said that I heard Rasulullah صلى الله عليه وسلم saying, إذا سمعتم بالطاعون. If you hear of a plague in a city or a country, then the people in this city or that country should not leave, and the people who are outside should not enter. What does that remind you of? Huh? Quarantine. The first sunnah, Rasulullah is teaching them how to quarantine. The first person to teach how to quarantine is Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam 1400 years ago. He said you shouldn't go in. And this is also very important because here Umar is a great Sahabi, Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu arda is the most knowledgeable of halal and haram of this ummah. He didn't know this hadith. Abu Ubaidah didn't know this hadith. And the Sahaba, whenever you have a text, this is how we gain victory, by the way. You guys are very young, mashallah. If you don't follow this rule, then we are defeated. When we have a text, an explicit text from Quran and Sunnah, we should not argue. There is no space of discussion. We cannot stand up and say, well, Rasulullah said this, but I think. You are nobody. When it comes to hadith of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam or Quran or the ayah, we should say, sami'na wa ata'na. The Sahaba, when they were differing on this matter, Abdurrahman ibn Auf made it very clear, and Usama ibn Zayd said, Wallahi, I also heard it from Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anhu wa arda. So know that, another lesson from here is, we don't know everything. If you ever think that you have knowledge of everything, if you ever think, mashallah, you're an engineer and a doctor and a faqih and a muhaddith and a mufassir and mashallah, you have it all, then you have lost it all. The Sahaba, Umar radiallahu anhu lived with Rasulullah sallallahu for so long and he never heard of that hadith. Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu, the most knowledgeable of halal and haram, never heard of this hadith. But when they heard the hadith, they said what? That said, there is nothing we could do. So Umar said, well, then we should listen and obey. Abu Ubaidah, radiallahu anhu arda, Ibn al-Jarrah, he said, Ya Amir al-Mu'mineen, afirarun min qadarillah. He said, are we running away from the destiny of Allah? So listen to what Umar said. He said, we are running away from the destiny of Allah to the destiny of Allah. Nafirru min qadarillahi ila qadarillah. What does that mean? He said to Abu Ubaidah, imagine if you have camels and you want to hurt your camels. Where would you take them? In the middle of the desert when there is nothing? Or you would look for a place that has grass and plants, and where would you take them? Where you think you'll take them? No, huh? You want to make sure the place has grass, that has food for them. So he said, when you took them by the destiny of Allah to the destiny of Allah. You had that choice. We are running away from the qadr of Allah. Allah didn't say go and die. Okay, Allah didn't command you to die. Like Corona, like when the COVID happened, a lot of people were so careless. Oh, it's okay if I get sick and I die, it's a qadr of Allah. I'll die as a shaheed. No, if you get sick, alhamdulillah, then you should be patient. But you should not throw yourself into harm and then say, I am. So Umar, that's what Umar radiallahu anhu was saying. So Abu Ubaidah, by the way, died from the plague. He died from it. And anyone who died from it dies as a shaheed too. Because Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu arda, when he gave his famous khutbah, when a man said, make dua for me. Make dua for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to remove this evil. He said, Wallahi, it's not evil. It's not filth. This disease is not evil. He said, Da'watu nabiyyikum. It's the dua of your prophet. وَهَلَاكُ الصَّالِحِينَ قَبْلَكُمْ. And it destroyed the righteous who came before you. وَشَهَادَةُ أَحَدِكُمْ يَخْتَصُّ بِهَا اللَّهُ عِبَادَهُ. And it is the blessing of Allah to choose you as a shaheed. Any person who dies, because Rasulullah counted, he said, do you know who's a shaheed? They said, the one who dies in the battlefield. The Prophet ﷺ said, no. Al-mat'un shaheed, wal-mabtun shaheed, wal-ghariq shaheed, wa-sahib al-hadmi shaheed. A person who dies drowning is a shaheed. A person who dies from any stomach, any disease in the stomach, whatever, liver cancer, spleen, whatever the case might be. If he dies, or he dies out of a plague, okay, then he dies as a shaheed. So Abu Ubaidah died in that. Mu'adh ibn Jabal himself, radiallahu anhu, died in it. And subhanallah, when Abu Ubaidah died, he appointed Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu and Mu'adh ibn Jabal was only 38 years old. And after Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu died, Yazid ibn Abi Sufyan radiallahu anhu the brother of Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan, took over. He became the leader of Damascus, and then after him became Muawiyah. Does that remind you of anything? No? You guys are not following politics? Okay, anyway. I don't know if you got the hint. This ummah doesn't rely upon individuals. This ummah doesn't die when individuals die. Abu Ubaidah was one of the greatest. He is what? What is he in the ummah? Aminu هذه الأمة, the most trustworthy of this ummah. Can you imagine? يعني مثلا if we say, who's nice here? Anybody? Ahmed, خلاص, today. If we say Ahmed is the most truthful in Davis, that means what? He's the top. Rasulullah said every ummah, every nation has a trustworthy person. From among us is Abu Ubaidah. That's why Umar wanted him to be the Khalifa. So Abu Ubaidah, when he died, خلاص, he died. Allah appointed who after him? Mu'adh ibn Jabal radiallahu anhu. Mu'adh ibn Jabal is the scholar of the scholars. قال النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم, he will be resurrected as a leader of the scholars in Jannah. Why? Because he is the most knowledgeable of halal and haram. طيب, when Mu'adh ibn Jabal died, Yazid ibn Abi Sufyan radiallahu anhu, and by the way, Yazid, when he took over, Yazid radiallahu anhu, he sent his brother Muawiyah to lead an army, and they conquered Tarablus, that's Lebanon, with only 6,000 soldiers. And he made more opening to Islam and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when someone dies, okay, if a leader dies, there is thousands of leaders to lead. This ummah, alhamdulillah, Rabbil Alameen, never dies when any person dies, okay? So, from the people who died in this plague is Yazid. Shurahbil ibn Hasana actually took over. Shurahbil is also another great Sahabi, and he died right after Yazid. He took over after Yazid. And then after that, Umar appointed Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan radiallahu anhu upon Jordan, Palestine, Syria, and Lebanon. And he was the Amir for so many years, even till after the death of Umar. Umar died year what? Umar died year? Okay, 23. 23 Hijri, radiallahu anhu arda. And Muawiyah radiallahu anhu arda was. So, is that clear now? Now, Damascus is the plague, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removed this harm from Muslims, and after that, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blessed this ummah with other tests, okay? And tests are never to be over. And by the way, a death of a great person is always a shifting point in the life of this ummah, believe it or not. A death of a great person, especially leaders, is always a turning point for this ummah. Believe it or not. Wallahi, when it happened. The first death was Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And then after that, Abu Bakr as-Siddiq, then Umar, then Uthman, then Ali, and then... So every time you have a great leader and he dies, there is a shifting point. There is a turning point. Okay? So don't feel sad for what happened to Gaza or what will happen, because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will protect His deen. طيب. Let's shift back to the conquest of Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa very quickly, inshallah, because I don't want to keep you late. So, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa was under the leadership of Muslims for 400 years, till the Crusaders invaded Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Let me give you a quick background, inshallah, okay, of history, so we could understand. We have the Islamic world at this time was divided into two. This is year now 1099 Miladi, which is about the 500-ish, okay? 479 or so, 490, okay? Year what? 490. So this is about 400 years later. Now, what happened? The Muslim ruled. Let's see who remember from our classes. First Khilafah was the Khilafah of Al-Rashida, Abu Bakr, Umar, Uthman, Ali. And then the Amawi Khilafah, and then the Abbasi Khilafah. So now we are at the time of the Abbasi Khilafah. Okay, all of this time, Jerusalem, Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa is run by who? Muslims. Everything is going very smooth. the Muslim Ummah was divided into two, East and West. So you have an isolation of power. You have on the far west, that is up to Spain, and all the west, Morocco, Tunisia, Algeria, Mauritania, and so on and so forth, is under the leadership of Al-Murabitin. Okay? Al-Murabit, these are the group who ruled from year 1062 to year 1150. Okay? Yusuf ibn Tashfin and Abdurrahman Nasir and others. Now you have the East is ruled by the Abbasi Khilafah. Within the Abbasi Khilafah, they are ruled by two groups in the Abbasi Khilafah itself. The first group are As-Salajiqa, which are the Turkish. Most of them were Turkish, and this is the movie or the series that most of you watch. Huh? Artughal, and طبعا ما شاء الله 700 series. I don't know how you guys watch that. But he is one of their leaders. That's As-Salajiqa at the time of that. And then you have Al-Ubaydiyun, or the rulers of Al-Ubaydiyun, who are the Shia or the Fatimis, who ruled that area and took over Egypt and part of Damascus. Now is that clear? So within the Khilafah of the Abbasi, there is two kind of Khilafah at the same time. On the east, there is the Al-Murabitin, and they are very powerful. Year 400, year 490, you have the West Europe, okay? The Pope of West Europe, he came up with an idea to invade the Muslim countries. Why? Because he and others like him were saying to the Christians, and most of them were Ortho, not Catholic. He said to them, after 1,000 years from the death of Al-Masih, the day of judgment will start. So when you count, that's year 1033. Now we are in year 1099. So how many years is that? 60 years after what they said, and nothing happened. The day of judgment didn't start. So people start questioning. That's one. Two, Europe at that time was living in poverty. Of course, everybody now is thinking about Europe. And by the way, Europe is going to play a big role very soon too. Because at the end of time, Muslims will ally with the Christians to fight the Europeans. And then the greater war will take place. They will defeat them, and then Muslims and Christians will fight. Malhama al-Kubra, and we're going to speak about that when we come to Isa alayhi salam. So now, Muslims are not, let me tell you history, okay? Because I want to apply this to Palestine today, to be very honest and very open. Muslims are never defeated because of their number. Never. We are never defeated because of less number that we carry or we have. Never. Muslims are always defeated if they leave off their religion. Okay? This is the way of life right now. You have the Islamic world right now divided into two groups. Both groups have issues with one another. One group is already divided into two. The Abbasi Khilafah is very weak. As Umar radiallahu anhu used to say, remember the statement of Umar, he said, Wallahi, he told his people, he said, Wallahi, we are never defeated because of less of number or lack of numbers. Wallahi al-Azim, we're defeated because of disobedience to Allah. Because our enemy has what? Our enemy are fully equipped. They have technology. They have money. They have resources. We are fighting them without any of that. So the only thing that we have is the obedience of Allah. And they are disobeying Allah. If we start disobeying Allah, then we are equal out in the disobedient. And they have more power. So who wins? Power wins. You understand that? And look through history, okay? History of Islam. Islam is never defeated except when Muslims leave off their religion. One. Two, separation, division among the Muslims. We're going to study very soon when we come to the time of before Salahuddin al-Ayyubi, Imad al-Din Zinki, and Nur al-Din Mahmud and others. You're going to be surprised that we lived at that time in a time of madhahib, the madhahib we have today, Abu Hanifa and Ahmad and Malik and Shafi, we were different, we were divided based upon the madhahib, that each madhab does not allow to be married, or they're not allowing their people to be marrying to other madhabs people. So the Maliki wouldn't marry the Shafi'i, or the Shafi'i wouldn't marry the Hanbali wouldn't marry, can you believe that? The madhab was an issue, division within. They didn't even understand how to differ and stay connected as Muslims. That's the second reason. Third reason is the fighting, the betrayal that takes place. If you take all these defects that the Muslims have applied to Palestine, now you understand why Jerusalem is not in the Muslims' hands. Palestine is not Palestine. We don't have ruling over Palestine because of these reasons. The same reasons that took place. So what happened? The Pope said, we're going to invade the Muslim countries because they have more resources, they have more power, they have more knowledge at that time. Lucky them, طبعا. Europe is completely poor. They have issues among themselves. They have problems. Okay. I just want you to go back 10 years from what I'm telling you right now. Your year 490, take 10 years, say 479, okay? There's a battle that took place that is called Az-Zallaqa, okay? This was between Muslims and Spain, all right? This battle, the Muslims, by the lead of Alb Arsalan, rahimahullah ta'ala, one of the great leaders of Muslims in history. Alb Arsalan's army was 20,000. Okay? The Dawla al-Byzantiyya, they were 200,000. 20,000 fighting what? 200,000. That means every person has to fight what? Huh? 10. Yes? 10? Can they run away then? Islam says you should run. If you're fighting two people, you shouldn't run away. More than two people, you have the right to do what? To run away. But this is 10 now. And they defeated them completely. So now when the Pope in Europe was thinking of invading Muslims, he thought of the West. And he said, there's no way we could defeat. They just defeated us. They defeated with 20,000. The East is easy capture. Where is the East now? Egypt, Damascus with all the countries. And then you have Iraq, Turkey, and then you have Sudan, and then Mecca and Medina and Yemen. So he said, now these people are divided. It is easier for us to invade them. And the Ortho and the Catholic, they allied together, even though they never do, because of the differences they have. Like what the Jews did with England. Same thing. They never get along. But of course, Britain gave them the declaration to take over Palestine. Why? They're Jews, and they are Christians. They are never together. But what brought them together is the cause, which is Islam. Now the Jews or the Israeli militant and their supporters. So the Crusaders came with. Okay, pay attention to these numbers now. Okay, they came with 1 million people, 1 million person to Damascus. So these people are not coming to. They're not coming to do what? To fight. They're coming to settle. Now the settlement that we see in Palestine now, didn't it happen the same way? They brought, among the million, only 1/4 were fighters, were soldiers. The rest were women, men, their children. These people came to live in Damascus. They came to build settlements in Damascus to take over Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. And the reason there is, first, their hatred toward Muslims. Number two, their economy was completely down, so they needed something to refresh it up. Three, the social life was also troubled. If you are poor, you could turn into slave and you lose your life, so why not live a better life? So the resources of the Muslims are always open to that. In 2 years, They killed, the first battle that they came, the Crusaders, they killed 100,000 Muslims in Antakya, in Turkey. The second battle in Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa in Jerusalem, and this is the first settlement in Jerusalem, they killed 70,000 in Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. 70,000 what? Civilians. Does this, okay, let me, I'm just afraid you guys are sleeping. Does this remind you of anything that's going on right now? Yeah? It's history repeats itself. The only problem is Muslims don't learn from history. Our enemies, mashallah, our enemies are very smart. They look at history. Look at the invasion of the Mongolians to Baghdad and how they destroyed the Abbasi Khilafah. Look at Bush's plan to invade Iraq in 2003. Wallahi al-Azim, it is as if he had followed, Genghis Khan and Hulagu's footsteps, step by step. Everything that they did is the same. It just repeats itself. 70,000. This is one of the most humiliated to the European in their history of killing 70,000 innocent civilians in Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa to build their settlement, their first settlement of Jerusalem. Same as what the Israeli militant does today to our brothers and sisters. Allah al-Musta'an. And they built 4 settlements. One, Antakya, Turkey. Antakya in Turkey, or North Turkey and Syria. They built Trablus, which is in Lebanon. Al-Ruha, that is north part of Iraq and Turkey and Syria. And they built the kingdom of Jerusalem itself. The reason that we were defeated at that time, the weakness of the Abbasi Khilafah on one side, the Ubaydi who ruled over year 358 for 200 years, they took over Sham and part of Egypt, and the Ubaydi were completely Ismailis and Shia, and they killed Muslims, they cursed the Sahaba, they did everything you could imagine that we hear of. The only good thing that they ever did in their life, other than killing people, is they built Al-Azhar. And they built Al-Azhar to defeat the Sunni madhab, and Allah used Al-Azhar to spread the Sunni madhab. SubhanAllah, 1,000 years now, and Al-Azhar is doing the job that they never wanted for that job to do. And they entered Egypt, they ruled over Egypt for 200 years, the Fatimi Khilafah. At that same timing, not even one person became Shia. They kept spreading the Shia madhab, but nobody. Why? Because the people of Egypt never wanted to curse the Sahaba. Like this was, no, we're not going to do that. They're afraid to say anything, but at least they're not going to do it. Now, this part of the country, now you have a economy problem, crisis. Why? Because at that time, if you have people who are living under the rulership of Ubaydis or Fatimis, they don't learn their religion, they don't apply the rules, so zakah is not paid, the money is not distributed right. There's so many issues that are going on. Now, at all of this time, As-Salajiqa, by the lead of Albi Arsalan, at that time, his son took over. And he took over Damascus and Halab, and he started his own kingdom there. Okay? How did they come out of this hardship? This is the turning point that we want to discuss. And this will answer our question, how could we get out of this hardship that we have today in Palestine? Should we continue today or كفاية كده? Okay, can we get the fans on? Okay, we'll continue till 9. Is that okay? I just want to finish it so we don't take longer time on it. Let's continue, inshallah. Look how they got out of all this trouble. To summarize, there's a lot to talk about. Nizam al-Mulk al-Tusi. He's from Iran. Okay? He was the minister of Alb Arsalan. And he was the minister of his son, King Shah, from year 465 to 485. They were where? They had nothing to do with Damascus. Now we're talking about Al-Mosul, Iraq, up to North Iran and Turkey. Has nothing to do with Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa right now, but the plan started here. He started what he called the Nizami school, the school system. It's after his name. His name is Nizam al-Mulk, so he called it Nizami. Nizami doesn't mean system, but it's a school system, like with curriculum. And the first thing that he did is he brought in scholars, and those scholars were teaching the people the correct aqidah and the madhahib, like Imam al-Ghazali, Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, rahimahullah. He brought Imam al-Juwayni, rahimahullah ta'ala, the Imam of the Haramain. He brought al-Jilani, Abdul Qadir al-Jilani, okay? And he brought these scholars and he told them, he said, I want you to teach people their religion. After him, Aqsunkur was also one of the leaders upon Halab. His son was problematic, and his son caused so many problems. Tutush was one of the people who destroyed everything that his father did. His father was one of the righteous, and he is a figure in Islamic history. But to make a story short, when he died, he left behind a son. Okay? One of his children. One of his children that everybody knows. Aqsunkur was one of the great leaders of Muslims in history, truly in history. Most sincere, very religious, hardworking in both fields. He was preparing the people, the armies, he was doing everything. When he died, he got killed, by the way. Okay? When he died, he left behind a son, 10-year-old. His name was Imaduddin Zinki. Imaduddin Zinki was born in Halab. When Tutush killed his father, okay, and he heard of that, Imaduddin Zinki left Halab and he went to Al-Mosul. Where is that at? Iraq. So he went all the way from Damascus to Iraq. Now he's an orphan. He's an orphan who lived in Iraq, but he never forgot his father, and he never forgot Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa. Sometimes the problem is we are always thinking that the victory will come from the place of trouble itself. Like we're focusing so much, how are we going to free Palestine, for example? The people of Gaza and the people of Palestine, they have to work hard. No, it could be Egypt that frees Palestine. It could be Jordan that frees Palestine. It could be Iraq that frees. It does, as long as Muslims are united. This is what he did when he took over the ruling. He took over the ruling in the year 521. That's Imaduddin Zinki. He made two things that he focused on. Number one, unifying or uniting the Muslim Ummah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَلَا تَنَازَعُوا فَتَفْشَلُوا. Whenever we differ on matters, then we're always divided and we're always defeated. Number two, he announced al-jihad for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No treaties. We're not going to go. The Fatimids who ruled Egypt at that time sent to the Christians in Damascus and they said, we want to make a treaty with you. You take over Syria, Jordan, Damascus, Antakya, okay, and you leave Jerusalem for us. And the Christians said no. The Crusaders, they said no. They're the one who said no. They were willing to divide. Like what happened today? Today we go back to the same thing in Palestine. They're not going to give you what you want. So he brought Al-Mosul, Halab, Hims, Hama, and Diyarbakir, south of Turkey, and he made it into a country, and he brought in scholars, and he started listening to them and obeying what the rules, and he was very sincere, and people started respecting scholars, people of knowledge, and subhanallah, year 539, he defeated the Crusaders at Ar-Ruha, which was one of the, we already said Ar-Ruha is one of the settlement that the Crusaders took over, after only 18 years of his leadership. And then Imaduddin Zinki was killed, year 541. But then he left his son, Nuruddin Mahmud. Nuruddin Mahmud, Imam Ibn al-Imad, rahimahullah, and Ibn Kathir said, these are historians, they said, أعظم, the best characteristic of a human being after, from the time of Umar ibn Abdul Aziz in history was this person, Nuruddin Mahmud, the son of Imaduddin Zinki. And Imaduddin Zinki is the son of Aqsunqur. And Aqsunqur was the one who started at the schools of Nizamul Mulk. So you see how the process is going now? The problem, I know all of you might be asking now, okay, Nuruddin Mahmud, by the way, he also did the same thing. He defeated the Madhhabiyya. He brought in one scholar from every madhab, and he made them as the Shura council for him. So now he respected all four madhahib and he united them. So now there is no difference between the madhahib. People are not fighting over madhab now, where to put your hand in salah. Khalas, now we're all one. This person, Nuruddin Mahmud, he brought to us a name that you are all familiar with. Who conquested Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa second time? This is wrong to say. Salahuddin Al-Ayyubi. Why is it wrong to say? Salahuddin Al-Ayyubi, his father is Najmuddin Ayyubi. Salahuddin is only a person in the chain of changes. Look how the changes is from Nizam al-Mulk to Sunqur to Imaduddin Zinki to his son Nuruddin Mahmud. Brothers and sisters, changes in this ummah doesn't just take place like that and just one person or khalas. Look at the process. All these people are preparing to free Palestine. These people are freeing Jerusalem. They're looking at Al-Masjid Al-Aqsa as a place to, and they're working toward that goal. Salahuddin came, he completed that, he conquested, but he only completed what they started. The problem is our history, especially in movies, they focus so much on who? On Salahuddin, as if he's the one who did everything. Salahuddin, by the way, is one of the greatest. But who took care of him? When Nuruddin Mahmud took over after his father, you know how old was Salahuddin at that time? Anybody know how old was Salahuddin? Nuruddin Mahmud, the one he took Hims, Halab, his father took Al-Ruha, so that's 3 settlements. We only have 2 settlements left. That's what Salahuddin conquested. So Nuruddin Mahmud, when he took over these countries, Salahuddin was 9 years old. He was a kid. But Nuruddin Mahmud, when he saw him, he said, this kid's special. And this is what we need to follow. Like Rasulullah did with the Sahaba, and he took him, and subhanAllah, he prepared him at age 10. You know how? The best well-known, how did they fight at this time? Swords and horses, back riding, yeah? So Salahuddin said, I hate horses. You know what he did with him? He played game. You know the game that is called polo? He played a real game. He said, oh, you don't like horses? But this game we have to play it, so you have to be on the horse and you play with the ball. And he brought him real ball. The ministers told Nuruddin, he said, you want to free Palestine and you playing with a little kid? He said, no, I'm preparing him for jihad. And he played with him, and he kept playing for days and days till it became the most beloved riding to Salahuddin. Like if there is no horse, there's nothing to do. At age what? 10. To a point that he said this, and Ibn Kathir mentioned this is so beautiful. One day, look at the teaching. One day he said, do you want to race, horse racing? He was 12, 13. He said, yes. He said, Bismillah. They both raced. Salahuddin won. So Nuruddin Mahmud said to Salahuddin, listen to this story. He said, what did you notice? He said, what? He said, when we were running, the shade of the sun was behind us. We were running this way, it was early morning, so we were running this way. The shade was running behind us. When we were coming back, the shade was where? In front of us. Salahuddin said, yeah. He said, do you know what that is? This is exactly how you live your life, dunya. if you, when the shade is behind, he said, if you put dunya behind your back and you run away from it, what's going to happen? The dunya is going to run after you. It's going to come to you. The shade is coming after you. Now, when you turn your face to dunya, it's running and you're running after it, you will never reach it. You will never get it. A 10-year-old, an 11-year-old, and he's teaching him that. He's teaching him what to do. What is this dunya? He said this dunya is like the shade. You leave it behind, it's going to come. You run after it, it will run away. Why? Because this person is going to become a leader later on. Only a few years after that, Salahuddin al-Ayyubi rahimahullah ta'ala became the Imam or the leader after Nuruddin Mahmud was killed, and he conquered in the Battle of Hittin, and he was seeing all night reading Quran during the Battle of Hittin, year 583, which is the biggest battle in Islamic history after Al-Qadisiyah. You know what Salahuddin was doing at that time? Salahuddin, of course, came from Egypt. He freed Egypt from the Ubaydis and the Fatimids. He ruled, he brought in all Yemen, Mecca and Medina. He took over Iraq. He came all the way to Damascus. Now he defeated in Hittin. He brought the scholars and to teach people and so on. And it's always knowledge and deen, knowledge and deen. He was seen reciting Quran and praying at night. So they asked him, tonight you need to rest. He said, Wallahi, I used to see Nuruddin Mahmud in battles that are harder than this, all night praying, holding the Mus'haf, reading all night long. He learned from who? Nuruddin Mahmud. When Nuruddin Mahmud learned from who? Imaduddin Zinki, his father, and so on and so forth. And Salahuddin radiallahu anhu wa rahimahullah ta'ala, up to, after that 583, he defeated the Crusaders in Hittin, and then he conquered Baytul Maqdis and defeated and returned back Baytul Maqdis, and he died year 589, and this is the second conquest that Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam spoke of. This is just brief. History is brief. Each one of these names that we mentioned today needs classes. Yani, wallahi, history. Why? Because these people, they will teach you. Rasulullah ﷺ says Allah will send every 100 years a person to revive the deen of this ummah. Those people that Allah send every 100 years, they are leaders that they have characteristics. Like, we want to know, what did they do? Like, in 18 years, can you change things dramatically? Yes. First, deen, the deen. You revive the deen. You respect the ulama and the scholars. You present them to the people as people of knowledge whom they should listen to and obey and respect. When the leaders honor the scholars, the people will honor the scholars. When you yourself become sincere in the changes that you want to change, even in sport. If I ask you, how many of you guys go to the gym? Many of you would raise their hand. But if I ask you, what do you go to the gym for? Some of you might not have a purpose, except to build muscles. Which is good. For what? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَأَعِدُّ لَهُمْ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُم مِّن قُوَّةٍ. This ummah would not gain victory if we don't prepare ourselves well. How do you prepare yourself? In all fields. In science, in technology, economy, in salah and siyam. We have to prepare. We have to prepare ourselves. We have to become strong. And we're not. We are defeated because we're not strong. Our sijjad that we pray on is made in China. We can't even, you know the sibha, this sibha right here, the box says made in Japan or Philippines. We can't even make our own sibha to make tasbih to Allah. And we're talking about victory. No, these people, you know, someone like Imaduddin or Salahuddin or others, they were not just, they were merchants. Okay? Nuruddin Mahmud built a hospital, first hospital. Do you know how many years that hospital was serving the people? Just give a number. He brought doctors from outside and paid them more money to build this hospital. Do you know this hospital was in Damascus for how many years running? Huh? 100? Anybody? The Nurani Hospital, do you know how many years? 800 years after his death. The roads today in our country, some of our countries. Okay, let me end with this joke. I hope we're on camera, but it's okay. No, let's not say that joke. Okay, let's just stay safe with. No. There's a Egyptian contractor. Okay, he met a American contractor. I hope you understand the joke. I'm not going to explain it, but. So the American contractor, the Egyptian contractor says to the American contractor, he said, "You guys don't like you build this project and you don't like get bribe, you don't get money off of it, you don't make any like you do actually build it." He said, "Yeah, we built it 2 million. See this project? Yeah, it costs 2 million, but we say it costs 2 million and a half. Okay, so." We get 2 million and half under it's fine. So he said, the Egyptian contractor said, "Oh, you see this project?" He say, "Where?" He say, "We say it costs 2 million." Okay, that's how our countries run. Okay? سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك ونتوب إليك. جزاكم الله خيرا. I'll see you next Tuesday and we're going to go on with more signs inshallah. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin.